revealed the amazing transformation when my daughter-in-law's 25 relatives came for Christmas. The frost glistened like tiny diamonds on the window panes, and the laughter of children echoed through the streets of their small Indiana town. Yet, inside Robert's cozy, if worn home, a shadow loomed large. He had fought hard through the loss of his beloved wife, pouring every ounce of love into his spirited teenage daughter, Samantha. With the holiday season knocking, Robert felt the weight of Christmas pressing down. How could he create the magical memories he wanted for Samantha when finances were tighter than ever? Just when he thought a quiet, modest Christmas might be his only option, his daughter's vibrant mother-in-law, Maria, dropped a bombshell. "We're inviting the whole family," she declared, waving a hand as if it were the easiest decision in the world. With 25 relatives descending from all corners of the country, excitement quickly spiraled into chaos. Vibrant toddlers giggled, weary grandparents shuffled about, and their sprawling family brought a whirlwind of traditions and expectations. Clinging to a semblance of calm, Robert's rural charm clashed with Maria's sophisticated relatives. He winced as they scrutinized his well-loved truck, chuckled at his home-cooked meals, and exchanged whispers that felt like daggers. The undercurrents of cultural clashes simmered just below the surface, and it threatened to explode. Each jab left Robert with a tight chest. He felt judged, boxed into a corner about his worth as a father and provider. But just as despair began to sink its claws into him, moments of warmth flickered like candlelight in the dark. Neighbors popped by with casseroles, their smiles a reminder that community was still alive and breathing. The elders shared stories of resilience and tenacity, allowing Robert to step outside himself and breathe for a moment. Laughter burst like confetti, and the spirit of Christmas began redirecting the course of the evening. Before he could catch his breath, a wave of tension surfaced. Out of nowhere, Robert faced a barrage of biting comments. The sting of their words forced his insecurities into the open, exposing old wounds that pulsed with pain. Could anyone see the man he was? Could anyone understand the struggles that shaped him? This echo of judgment hung heavy in the air, each moment laden with unspoken words as Robert struggled to hold his dignity in place. Just when things threatened to spiral out of control, spirited debates erupted around the dinner table. Grudges were unpacked, identities revealed, every family member let slip hidden stories of pain and hope. Instead of wrestling with their differences, they began to grasp the shared thread of humanity that connected them, giving depth to the idea of family. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As laughter began to weave through the fabric of hostility, a moment of authenticity broke the tension, a simple act of kindness from one of Maria's relatives during dinner. An unexpected gesture unfolded, muting the chaos and reopening pathways to healing. Yet, amidst all the laughter, a question loomed larger than life. Would Robert find acceptance among his daughter-in-law's massive family? And could he learn to stand proud in the identity he crafted through love and resilience? The stakes felt uncertain, and as hope ignited in the chilly air, Robert found himself poised on the edge of transformation, eager to discover the answers that awaited him. The clatter of dishes and the aroma of rich gravy filled the air, creating a comforting haze that wrapped itself around Robert like a favorite old sweater. As the laughter continued to burst around the table, he leaned back and tried to absorb it all. Samantha, with her bright eyes twinkling, was caught in the moment, sharing jokes with her cousins, her joy becoming infectious. For a fleeting moment, Robert felt the heavy cloak of anxiety lift slightly, but then, just as quickly, a weight returned. Maria's brother-in-law, Tom, hadn't been quiet all evening. His voice boomed, punctuating the revelry, and Robert caught a few sidelong glances directed his way. With every laugh that erupted at the table, the tension twisted tighter in Robert's chest. After a few bold remarks about Robert's modest home compared to the grand houses of some relatives, Robert's heart raced. He simmered inside, hating that those trivial comments could prick at him so deeply. "What do you do for a living again?" Tom smirked, oblivious to the impact of his words. "With the way this dinner was cooked, I hope you have a stable job." A collective hush fell over the room, laughter turning into awkward coughs. Samantha's smile faltered, flickering like a candle whose flame succumbed to a breeze. That's when Robert felt it, the hot burn behind his eyes, the rush of humiliation creeping up his throat. Would this Christmas dinner turn into a battlefield of egos? Yet, what happened next surprised him. Maria, fierce as ever, her eyes sparking with indignation, slammed her hand gently on the table. "That's enough, Tom." Her tone was both firm and kind, disarming a situation about to explode. "You know Robert works hard every day to give Samantha a good life. This isn't just about what's on the table, it's about family." Feeling a swell of gratitude and relief, Robert glanced over at Maria. How could such a small gesture carry so much weight? In that moment of solidarity, he realized he wasn't alone. He wasn't just the man they had judged. He had a daughter who loved him and friends in the community who stood by his side. Encouraged, he took a deep breath and decided to step into the space Maria had created. "Well, I might not have a flashy job or the fanciest car," he began, his voice steadying despite the flutter in his chest. "But what matters is the effort I put in every single day for my daughter." A murmur rippled through the table, a muted acknowledgement. As stories unfolded around him, personal battles, life lessons, shared dreams, it became clear this dinner was more than just a meal. It was a patchwork of hopes, vulnerabilities, and laughter stitching surprising connections into their lives. Samantha's eyes lit up again, reflecting a newfound pride in her father. An unexpected chuckle erupted from a distant cousin, and just like that, the wall between Robert and the family began to show cracks. It felt as if they were all peeling away layers of expectation and judgment, exposing raw truths beneath. But even as he found his footing in this chaotic family landscape, a question nagged him. Could he truly change their perception of him? When faced with lasting judgments, would he know how to continue standing tall, armed with conviction and courage? The light dimmed slightly as evening turned into night, leaving the kitchen aglow with the fading warmth of a shared experience. Yet, outside, the wind howled, as if echoing a deeper challenge waiting on the horizon. Something in Robert stirred, a quiet determination pushing him forward. What would he do next? How could he keep this momentum, this acceptance, growing amongst the chaos of the holidays? Before Robert could even process his swirling thoughts, his phone buzzed in his pocket, the sound jolting him into the moment. A notification flashed on the screen. Was it from Samantha, or perhaps someone from the family? Whatever it was, it felt significant, a turning point amidst the Christmas lights. With more swirling questions than answers, Robert braced himself for what came next, ready for the journey ahead. The phone screen illuminated Robert's face, casting a soft glow that cut through the dim kitchen light. He felt the tension in his chest twist again, but this time with anticipation. He glanced down to see a message from Samantha. "Dad, can you come outside? I need to show you something." His heart raced as the world around him faded. He caught Maria's eye from across the room. She gave him a nod of encouragement, her earlier fierceness replaced by warmth. He pushed back from the table, the chair scraping slightly against the floor, drawing a few curious glances. "Be right back," he announced, masking the rapid beat of his heart. The chill of the night air pushed against him as he stepped outside. The sounds of the family dinner muffled behind the door, replaced by the soft rustle of the wind and the distant twinkle of Christmas lights strung up on nearby houses. Samantha stood in the snow-dusted yard, her breath visible in the cold air, creating small clouds of mist that danced in front of her. She wore a thick jacket, yet her excitement radiated warmth. "Look!" She pointed to the trees lining the edge of their property, where a colorful display of Christmas lights flickered in a harmonious melody, synchronized to a faint tune he could barely hear. "It's beautiful," he exclaimed, a genuine smile breaking across his face. The sight of those lights weaving a pattern through the branches fluttered in his heart like the magic of childhood he had nearly forgotten. "Can you believe it?" she said, bouncing on her heels. "I wanted to do something special this year. It took me a while, but I got everyone to help me set it up without you knowing." Tears pricked at Robert's eyes as he looked at his daughter. She wasn't just growing taller, but also brimming with creativity and spirit. Right then, he felt a wave of warmth wash over him, brushing aside the chill of the air. "I'm so proud of you, Sammy. You did all of this?" "I just wanted you to see that we can have our own traditions," she said, a hint of shyness creeping in. "You don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks." Her words sank deep into him. It wasn't just about the decorations, it was about them, about building something unique that belonged solely to their family. His throat tightened with gratitude, and emotions threatened to spill over. At that moment, as he wrapped his arms around her, embracing his little girl who was becoming a remarkable young woman, the world felt solid and safe. The light from the house spilled out onto them, mingling with the twinkling lights above, creating a cocoon of belonging. Yet, as he released her, a sudden pang of vulnerability struck him. Yes, he felt pride now, but how could he maintain this connection? How could he foster this warmth through the family dynamics that still loomed inside? Would Tom and the others ever truly accept who he was alongside his daughter's newfound hopes? Just then, another buzz echoed in his pocket, bringing him back to reality. This time, it was a group message. Curiosity piqued, he pulled out his phone, glancing quickly at the screen. "Can everyone come back inside? We need to talk," the message read, sent by Maria. Robert exchanged glances with Samantha, a mix of excitement and nervousness dancing in both their eyes. What could this possibly be about? Was another confrontation looming, or perhaps an unexpected opportunity was on the horizon? As they turned to head back inside, he felt a determination rising within him, ready to face whatever the night held. What resolution awaited them around that table? The air buzzed with potential as they stepped over the threshold, and Robert's heart hammered with the thrill of possibility. This was only the beginning, and the journey ahead promised challenges, revelations, and perhaps unexpected support that could change everything. As they entered the warmth of the kitchen, the familiar aroma of turkey and cornbread wrapped around them, setting a backdrop of comfort against the tingling uncertainty filling the air. The dining table was still adorned with half-eaten desserts and untouched plates of food, remnants of the earlier celebration. Maria stood at the head of the table, her expression serious yet hopeful, gathering everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming back inside," she began, her voice steady, though there was an edge of emotion that reflected the weight of the moment. "I know this holiday season has been different, but I want to talk about us, about our family." Robert could feel the tension riding on every word, the heaviness pressing against the back of his throat. He caught Samantha's eye, her bright smile from outside dimming just a touch, the gravity of the moment creeping in. "Some things may need to change," Maria continued, her gaze sweeping across the room, landing briefly on Tom, who sat stiffly on the couch, arms crossed. "And I believe we need to find ways to be more open, especially for the kids' sake. We've got to figure out how to support everyone." There it was, the unspoken truth hanging in the air like snowflakes before they hit the ground. Robert could feel his heart quicken, a mix of fear and hope threading through him. What did this mean? Was this the moment where they would choose to embrace their differences? Consider this a new beginning, Maria proposed, her voice gaining strength. I want our holidays to be a place where everyone feels safe, loved, and heard. We can make this work. What are you suggesting? Tom interjected, his voice sharp and skeptical. We can't just ignore the way things are. You want us to change everything? Not everything, Tom, Maria replied, her patience shining through. Just how we treat each other. We've been so caught up in our differences, we've forgotten what family truly means. Robert watched the exchange, noticing the tension twisting Tom's face. For a moment, anger flared, but then realization softened it, a flicker of understanding beneath the surface. Could Tom really change, or was this just a fleeting moment? Samantha stepped forward, cutting through the thick air. I think it would be cool if we could start new traditions together, like our lights outside. We could do things that really help everyone feel included. Robert couldn't help but beam at her courage. Could this spark create a flame? It was a bold move, pushing the family to embrace something fresh, something they could all build together. Exactly, Maria chimed, nodding at Samantha's idea. Imagine the future, a Christmas where memories are made, not hidden away. The room grew quiet as the gravity of her words settled in. Robert could feel the shift. It was more than just hope. It felt like a turning point, a wave rolling towards shore, ready to crash and reshape everything it touched. But before Robert, the moment lost its balance. A cell phone buzzed again, cutting through the tension, and it was Tom's turn to check it. His expression twisted into a frown as he read the message. It's Dad. He's sick. He wants to see us. Now. A collective gasp filled the room, shifting the focus dramatically. Robert's heart sank, his thoughts racing. What did this mean for their budding resolutions? Would they face the storm waiting on the other side? He wasn't sure if he was ready for this knowledge, but he knew one thing. They had already started down a path that would change everything. Could they rally together? Or would this latest news drive them apart once more? As they all stood there, hearts heavy with new uncertainties, the question loomed larger than life. Would they rise to this occasion or crumble under the weight of old wounds? Tom's eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but found only the worried expressions of his family. It was a heavy time for all of them, but the message he had just read seemed to cut deeper, slicing through any temporary peace they managed to create. Dad may not be here for much longer, he said, voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. You all know how he gets. Robert could feel the tension in the room escalate. He could see Samantha's face hardening, realizing how much was at stake today. Everyone had worked so hard to stay positive, and now they were faced with a reality that threatened to tear them apart again. Tom, maybe this is the wake-up call we need, Robert finally said, his voice low but steady, trying to pierce the storm brewing inside the room. It's time we step up for each other, together, for Dad. Step up, Tom spat, throwing his hands in the air. What do you expect us to do? Just drop everything because of a text? You don't know what he's really like. He's the reason things are the way they are. Stop, Samantha called, her eyes welling with unshed tears. We're not just doing this for him. We need to do this for us, for our family. He may be sick, and I get that, but we need to decide how we want to face this. Do we want to keep fighting, or do we want to put aside our differences? Maria stepped forward, taking a deep breath, trying to pull the pieces of their splintering family back together. We've been through so much hurt, but sickness can either bring us closer or drive us apart. What are we going to choose? A moment passed as everyone silently weighed her words. Robert felt the burning weight of his, heavy thoughts about their dad. He had felt every hurt his family bore from their estrangement. There was always a line drawn at family gatherings, unspoken but painfully clear. Everyone made a choice to avoid any talk of their father, to keep the peace, But now, with everything on the table, he realized there was no more room for avoidance. I haven't spoken to Dad in years, Robert finally admitted, trying to sound casual. I don't even know what I would say to him. But this is our chance to reach out to him, to show that we can change, that we can break this cycle. If you're all willing to try, we have to give it a shot. And what if he shuts us out again? What if it doesn't work? Tom's voice was quieter now, almost pleading. Robert stepped closer. We face that together. This is our family, and we owe it to ourselves to at least try. We can't continue living with these walls. Either we see him, or we look back regretting never having made the effort. Tom hesitated, caught in the turmoil of emotions swirling just beneath his surface. The fear of loss and the hope of healing hung in the air, thick and suffocating. But as he looked at the expressions of everyone around him, he knew he had a choice to make. The silence felt electric, charged with every past grievance and the pain of unresolved issues. Finally, Tom let out a long breath. Okay, let's do it then. Let's go see him. But if I get hurt doing this, I'm holding all of you accountable. Deal, Robert said, clapping a hand on his brother's shoulder. But we're going to do this together, no matter what. As they turned toward the door, the feeling of unity began to spark. Just as they stepped outside, the sun broke through the clouds, shining upon them. Did it symbolize hope for their family? Robert wanted to believe so. With renewed determination, they piled into the car, hearts pounding, not just in anticipation of what lay ahead, but with the promise of forming a truly united front. But as Tom pulled out his phone to send a quick response to their father, Robert couldn't shake the feeling that this might not be the end of their struggles. Would the past finally let them go? Or would it rear its ugly head when they least expected? The car hummed softly as they drove through familiar streets, the kind of streets that held memories, some sweet, others bitter. Robert glanced at Tom, who gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. It was as if they were pulling away from the chains of the past, but they were still tethered by the fears that lingered in the back of their minds. Samantha sat in the back seat, her eyes fixed out the window. She felt the anxiety in her gut tightening like a fist. What if he doesn't even want to see us? What if this is the biggest mistake? She whispered. Then we try again, Maria said firmly, her voice steady. We talk about it. We face it together. We owe it to ourselves to give it our best shot. Mom, you make it sound simple. We're talking about years of pain, Tom replied, the weight of his words palpable. Nothing is ever simple, Tom, Maria replied softly, sadness creeping in her tone. But standing still never got us anywhere either. We can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward. Robert could feel a tension radiating off Tom, a turbulent mix of rebellion and resolution. Just remember, Tom started slowly, if he pushes us away, it'll hurt, and I don't know if I'll have the strength to keep trying. None of us do, Robert said, feeling the heaviness settle on their shoulders. But we've all lost too much already. We can't afford to lose the chance to change things. The car turned onto the street where their dad had lived for decades, the house now looming ahead like a shadow. The grand oak tree in the yard, once a place for games and laughter, now felt like a silent spectator to their impending confrontation. Tom's hands shook slightly as he parked in the driveway. Let's do this, he said, determination in his voice masking the storm beneath. Robert glanced at his siblings, their faces a mix of fear and hope. He nodded toward the house. Together. They walked up the path, the crunch of gravel echoing with every step. Tom hesitated just before the door, his breath hitching in his throat. Are we readied? He asked, almost as if he were trying to convince himself. The others touched his shoulders, a simple gesture, brimming with solidarity. We are, Samantha whispered. Tom raised his hand to knock, paws tightening the air around them. With a firm rap, the moment sliced through the quiet. They waited, breaths held, hearts racing. In an instant, the door swung open, revealing their father's frail figure, aged and weary. His eyes widened in surprise before they flickered with a hint of recognition, a mix of joy and confusion. "What are you all doing here?" he asked, his voice shaky. "We came to see you, Dad," Tom said, the effort of a lifetime hanging in those words. The uncertainty in his own voice reflected the uncertainty of the moment. Their father blinked rapidly, as if trying to process the unexpected. "Why?" "Because we need to talk," Robert said, stepping up alongside Tom, "about everything, about us, about you." The silence that followed felt monumental, each second stretching into a lifetime as they waited for his response. But just then, a flicker of discontent crossed their father's face. "I don't think I'm ready for this," he mumbled, a half step back. Robert's heart sank. "Dad, please." Would they unravel after coming so far? Or was this the initial fracture from which healing could emerge? The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the journey was just beginning. The silence thickened, wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. Robert's hands itched to reach out, to bridge the ever-widening gap that seemed to manifest between them and their father. "We've waited so long for this moment," he urged, his voice trembling with emotion. "We came for you, for all of us." Their father took a shallow breath, the lines of his face deepening with an internal struggle. "You don't get it. It's not that simple." His words hung in the air, laden with resignation. "Dad, it can be," Tom said, his earlier bravado faltering. "We're here to work through it. We're not leaving without trying." The old man's eyes darted to the driveway, almost as if he anticipated someone else arriving, perhaps a savior who would unravel this tension. I thought you were done with me. I never wanted you to suffer." Samantha stepped forward, her heartbeat increasing as a storm of emotions brewed inside her. "We haven't suffered, not because of you at least. We suffered because we lost touch. We want to find each other again. Please." "Do you even know how much it hurt?" their father blurted, his voice breaking as raw vulnerability pierced through his facade. "After everything, after the choices I made, it's easier to push away than to face the pain." Robert felt the tears prickling in his eyes. "We've all hurt. We've lived in silence. But we're here now. We're standing here because we want to change that silence." He stepped further into the doorway, hoping to close that gap. "We want to understand. We want you back in our lives." Their father's gaze softened slightly, the barriers around his heart cracking, even if only for a moment. "Back? You mean to what? The man who failed as a father?" "No," Tom said, shaking his head vigorously. "To the dad who did his best in a situation no one could understand. It won't be easy, but we're willing to fight through it." It was like looking into a mirror, reflecting his own insecurities back at him. Their father swallowed hard, visibly reconsidering the boundaries he had erected for protection. "Please," Sam whispered, her voice almost breaking. "You're still our dad." In that moment, Robert wanted so badly for his father to let go of the burdens he carried alone, the mountains of regret sitting heavily on his shoulders. An eerie stillness engulfed them all as the moment stretched like a taut rope ready to snap. Then, the barest flicker of hope ignited in their father's eyes. "I don't know how to start." "Tell us how you've been," Maria interjected gently. "Let's just talk, one small step at a time." And for the first time, the door seemed to widen just a crack, inviting them into the realm of past grievances and shared memories. Yet, as all of them stepped inside, they wondered, could this fragile moment reshape their future together? But just as they crossed the threshold, the sound of a phone ringing shattered the air, pulling their focus back into the present. The call cut through, the vulnerability like a knife, and they collectively turned to see their father's face turn pale. "It's only my lawyer." In an instant, the looming prospect of repair felt precarious again. Would their father's hesitant hope crumble under the weight of unresolved matters? Would they endure another setback when they had just taken this first step forward? Their father's hand trembled slightly as he fumbled for the phone. Samantha's heart raced. In that moment, the space that had begun to feel warming and inviting suddenly became cold and distant again. She took a step back, sensing the shift, feeling as though they were losing the ground they had just gained. Maybe you should take it," Robert suggested, trying to mask the fear pooling in his gut. The idea felt like a betrayal of all the hope they had just kindled. "No, I need to hear it. I can't hide from it anymore," their dad sighed, his voice a mere whisper now, strained with conflicting emotions. He turned away slightly, the weight of the phone in his hand feeling heavier than any burden he'd carried before. Tom glanced at Samantha, his eyes wide with concern. "Should we leave the room?" he asked hesitantly, unsure if this was the moment they were dreading. "What if he takes the call and just leaves us again?" Samantha whispered nervously. They all felt it, the fear of losing their father again, the possibility that this one call could undo everything they'd just fought for. "Let's stay," Robert replied firmly, determination etched on his face. "He needs us." Taking a deep breath, their father pressed the phone to his ear. "Hello?" A silence fell over the room as he listened, his eyes losing their connection to the family standing right in front of him. They watched his face, a canvas of emotions flickering like shadows. Confusion, anger, sadness, each passing second brought a new wave. "Yeah, I understand. He began, but his words trailed off. The knot in Samantha's stomach twisted tighter. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her arms wrapping around herself as if to stave off the cold creeping in. All four of them stood there, silent witnesses to a conversation that felt like an unraveling. Their father's brow furrowed deeper, his mouth pressing into a thin line. He glanced at them, a brief moment of eye contact conveying his turmoil. "Listen, I need a little more time." He hesitated, his voice cracking. "I can't just figure this out in one day." Samantha felt tears spring to her eyes. This was it. This was the moment they had all dreaded, where uncertainty threatened to snatch away their fragile hope. But then something unexpected happened. Their father shifted his gaze from the phone back to them, his expression melding resolve with vulnerability. "I'm here," he suddenly said, as if reminded of their presence. "Just give me a moment." Each of them took a step closer, wrapped in the gravity of his words. It was as if they were offering their support without needing to say a thing. They were a unit, a family, ready to stand together against whatever lay ahead. After a few more moments of silence, he pulled the phone away from his ear. "I'll call you back," he finally said with a strength they didn't know he possessed. He hung up, taking a deep breath and closing his eyes for a brief moment. "What did they say?" Tom asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Their father ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that flickered between frustration and relief. "There are things, legal matters, business, pasts I thought I'd left behind. It's all coming back. I can't escape it." Samantha took another step forward. "You don't have to face it alone. We can tackle this together. We're in this as a family now." The air thickened with possibility. The door seemed to have opened further, their father no longer standing completely apart, but instead stepping closer to them, wavering on the edge of fear and acceptance. He looked at each of them in turn, gauging their expressions, fishing for courage in their eyes. "But what if I mess this up? What if I hurt you again?" The silence stretched once more, fraught with the weight of their father's question, each person processing their own fear of what could happen next. Then we'll figure it out together, Robert said, his voice full of conviction. But we have to start now. No more delays. Their father nodded slowly, the flicker of hope rekindling. Okay, he said softly. Okay. Yet as they embraced this first step toward their future, a loud knock startled them, echoing against the walls, an interruption that pulled them back into the uncertainty they had just navigated. Who was on the other side? Would they pull their father away again, just when they thought they were making progress? A chill ran through the room at the sudden knock. Samantha's heart dropped. The sense of unity they'd just begun to foster fractured in an instant. Her dad's eyes darted toward the door, and the tension was palpable. Who could it be? The threat of losing what they had just worked to rebuild loomed large in their minds. Should I get it? Tom offered, but his voice wavered, betraying his uncertain enthusiasm. Wait, their father said, his hand raised in caution. He took a step toward the door, pausing to take a deep breath as if bracing himself for impact. Samantha reached out instinctively, gripping her father's arm. Are you sure? What if it's someone from your past? The idea sent a shiver down her spine. With a weighted silence, their dad turned the doorknob. It creaked open slowly, as though dragging the tension along with it. Standing there was a woman they hadn't seen in years, a figure from a bygone chapter of their father's life. The same sharp features, the same intense eyes, that tufts of gray hair framed in a way that made Samantha's stomach tighten. Cynthia? He breathed, his voice a mixture of shock and dread. Hello, Mike, she said, a calculated calmness in her tone that screamed of unresolved history. I came to talk. From behind her, a broad-shouldered man stepped forward, a somber expression painted across his face. The moment he entered the light spilling from the living room, Samantha noticed an immediate shift. Her father's posture drooped, and she felt the room's air thicken like fog seeping in from an unseen place. I'm sorry to interrupt, the man said, his voice low but resonating authority, but we need to discuss your obligations. Samantha shot a glance at Robert and Tom, both wearing expressions laden with worry, as if they were navigating uncharted waters filled with jagged rocks. What obligations? Their father's voice was brittle. He was unnerved. The glimmer of hope they had carefully crafted now stood on the precipice of collapse. Come on, Mike. We both know it's time to face it, Cynthia pressed, her words deliberate, calculated. You can't run from it anymore. Samantha felt anger rising in her chest. It wasn't just confusion surrounding their father's past that gripped them. It was the uninvited turmoil brought through the threshold. She couldn't let this stranger, this woman who once had a hold on her dad, break apart what they were trying to mend. Who are you to barge in here like this? She snapped, more assertive than she felt. We've just started to figure everything out. Cynthia raised an eyebrow, surprised for a moment, but quickly returned to her composed demeanor. I'm the last person who can let him off the hook. It's about time things went back to where they started. Not everything can be swept under the rug, dear. Her father's expression darkened. I made my choice, he snapped, the hurt evident in his voice. You're a part of the past I'm trying to move beyond. This isn't about you anymore. A hint of vulnerability shined in Cynthia's eyes, but it shifted to something colder. It's about a future you owe to us, Mike, she said, gesturing vaguely in the air. You think you can just step away and leave everything behind? This doesn't just affect you. For Samantha, everything blurred as the conversation spiraled into chaos, each word a potential fracture to their hope. The looming tension threatened to shatter their newfound unity. She reached for Tom, who squeezed her hand tightly in response. They needed to act, and fast. Wait, Samantha called out, taking a step forward. We're not going to let you control him. He's not the man you think he is anymore. As the words spilled out, they hung in the air like a prayer, daring the universe to catch them. Their father looked at her, admiration clear in his eyes, until it shifted back to uncertainty. It felt as if a storm was approaching, unseen but very much inevitable. Would they be able to hold on to this fragile thread of understanding, or would the past drag them back into the shadows? As the air crackled with tension, the answer was suspended, waiting just out of reach. When hope seemed to hang by a thread and tensions threatened to tear them apart, Robert took a deep breath. He stepped forward, placing himself beside Samantha. "You're right," he said assertively. "Dad has fought too hard to change, and we're here to support him. This is our moment, and no one else gets to decide that for us." Cynthia recoiled at his words, the surprise evident on her face. "And what do you think you know about him? You're just kids playing house. You don't see the real issues here." Samantha's heart raced, her stomach flipping, but she pressed on. "No, we're not kids anymore. We're not perfect. And yeah, our dad has made mistakes, but he has the chance to be a better man, and we're giving him that chance. Why don't you step back and let us show you how?" Mike stood there, taking in the scene. The determination on his children's faces started to sway something within him, something he thought he'd lost long ago. He felt torn between the life he once knew and the family that was fighting for him now. "I don't have anything left to give you, Cynthia," he said slowly. "I can't keep running back to the past while trying to build something new here. It isn't fair to them, and it's not fair to you. You need to understand that." From the corner of his eye, Robert saw a flicker of realization on Cynthia's face. The hardened edge began to soften. "But you can't just ignore it," she pleaded, her voice quieter now, a trace of desperation seeping in. "Those are obligations that come from our history. You may have a future with them, but you have responsibilities to confront first." "Then I'll confront them on my terms," Mike replied firmly, glancing at his children, a newfound warmth flickering in his eyes. "I won't let my past dictate who I am now." With the door ajar between past and future, Cynthia felt the tension crackle in the air. As she glanced at the family unit formed before her, bound by love, pain, and a desire to heal, she hesitated. Through the chaos, the fading light of compassion flickered within her. "I didn't come here to destroy," she said softly, "but I can't just vanish either." "Then let's come together," Robert responded, extending his arms toward the four of them, inviting her into their world of healing. "We need each other, even if the road ahead won't be easy. It's never too late to start over." For the first time that night, Cynthia looked beyond her own hurt and realized the weight of her expectations. Perhaps it was time to give up the need for control and acknowledge that healing takes collaboration. "Okay," she finally said, tears brimming at the corners of her eyes. "Let me try. But I need to know you're really ready to change." "Then we start now," Mike urged, his voice steady. "I'm ready to face what I owe, with my family by my side. That's the first step." As they shared tentative glances filled with understanding and a willingness to bridge the gap, Samantha felt the walls crumble around them. All those years spent in silence seemed less heavy when confronted with this fragile hope. "Together," Tom echoed, feeling the strength from the room washing over him. "We can do this together." With the door left open to new possibilities, the initial tension began to settle as they took a collective step inside. The memories of the past swirled around them, as memories often do, but for once there was space for something different to unfold: unity. As they cradled the intertwining threads of their relationships, laughter broke the weight of past grievances, just like the clinking of glasses during a toast. It was an affirmation, a promise to reclaim their family's story and write new chapters together. "What about dinner?" Samantha suggested, the corners of her mouth lifting as she turned to face the hodgepodge of people waiting for their fathers and mothers. "We can set the table again. Eric can be in charge of lighting the candles." Mike felt a swell of joy wash over him. In that moment, something shifted within him. A warmth, a reconnection, not just to the love they'd all fought for, but to the spirit of family he so dearly missed. As they gathered around the dining table once again, filling it with hopes, dreams, and the promise of tomorrow, Robert felt a radiant smile wash across his face. They were more than mere threads. They were a tapestry, alive and breathing, ready to take on whatever came next. This Christmas wasn't just about traditions or obligations. It was about discovering the beauty of acceptance and the strength that comes from love, renewed and unbreakable. And as they shared their stories, the laughter bubbling forth, each one a testament to change, Robert knew this was the moment they had all been waiting for. Everything he had wished for Samantha and their family was finally taking root. This was just a beginning, a transformation shaped by vulnerability, compassion, and newfound hope. It would take time, patience, and commitment, but together they would conquer whatever road lay ahead. Now, if you felt those emotions surge through you, if you believed in the magic of connection, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for the journey we've shared together. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It genuinely helps us reach more amazing stories. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The power of family matters now more than ever.